as we go live, I will share this out to the different Facebook groups and stuff.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to share this in yours too. Hey, everybody, good to see y'all. Um,
Yeah.
but it doesn't stream very well to Facebook groups anymore if you want to just post it in yours.
Okay. So what are you posting specifically?
It should be live on your Facebook if you just want to share it into whatever groups you want to see it.
Okay.
Facebook kind of screwed up live streaming into groups. So,
Yeah.
hey, y'all, good to see you guys. Good to see you jumping in here. Really
Hey
appreciate
guys.
you spending some time with Rachel and I today. So, Rachel, please, yeah, introduce yourself. Let's get kicked off there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for inviting me to share, Tyler. This has been near and dear to me. I know the Southeast has been impacted, but my name is Rachel Gainsbrugh. I'm a healthcare professional, ex healthcare professional, full time real estate investor, and I have a mentorship program that helps healthcare professionals get into real estate investing. Our bread and butter has been short term rentals and midterm rentals for the past 6 years or so. We primarily focused on midterm rental strategies that support families who are displaced from their homes due to disaster. So that's our specialty. And so I know when Tyler reached out to me, I was like, yeah, this is definitely in my wheelhouse. And so my heart goes out to everyone who's been impacted. And for those of you who still have properties intact, congratulations. But I know tourism is going to be down, and we're going to see a lot of cancellations, so we want to make sure you have some tools in your tool chest that you can leverage during this difficult time.
Yeah, yeah. It's our October calendar. I actually have one guest that's going to come, and on October 18th they're going to check in, and he actually called a brewery tour operator that they were scheduled with, and the brewery tour operator says all the breweries we go to are fine. There are lots that are
Oh,
devastated, and there is so much, but tourism dollars are going to be a big thing. But for now, we really want to think about displaced families. And I've had so many police departments reach out to me, 4 police departments at this point. From all over North Carolina. And it's funny because I saw a photo yesterday. Well, nothing about this is funny, but I found it very interesting, at least. I saw a photo yesterday, and it was a Canadian lineman truck.
yeah.
So all the words on the side of it, Rachel, are in French, and it's yellow. It doesn't look anything like our lineman trucks. Next to a lineman truck that was had words all in Spanish, and it was from
Wow.
Tijuana, Mexico, and they were working hand in, and like, this is just amazing to see, all of that come together. But you are right. I mean, we've had October totally decimated, and the problem with that is October is like our best month of the year. Typically, it's even scratches out a little bit above July. So,
Wow.
what should people be doing to prepare for this sort of stuff in advance?
Well, right now, I think that the number one thing that people can do today within the next hour is understanding what you're conveying as a property in terms of your calendar. So, if you're expecting people to maybe cancel or not show up or have some, I would say, change in their plans, well, we need to still make sure that that property is marketed in such a way it is attracting those very hot leads right now. And so you're probably going to hate that I say this, Tyler, but in my business, I don't recommend it for everyone. This is not for the faint at heart. And I know this is being recorded, but in my business, we do have a duplicate listing that is strictly for midterm rentals to let the community at large know that, hey, we're open for business. And say there's just one booking on the calendar for the next 6 months. Well, we're going to work with our other partners in the market and transition them over. But it's going to be ideal for us personally, especially in the suburban markets, to go ahead and host that 6 month booking that may be trying to get into your property, but because your property has 2 night bookings peppered all over it, it's not even going to show up in search as an available option where you may fully well know that, yeah, you're having conversations with people that may not be able to make it after all for whatever reason. So be thinking about that. Is there a property right now available that you're conveying? Hey, even if it's a, you may have a portfolio of 7 properties, but you just have that one property that's out there just with the "oh, we're open for service" light on, and then you can let them know, well, actually it's this property because
Yeah.
that property we have an extension. So it's a different kind of conversation. It takes a little bit of hand holding, but once they're in there for 6 months, you're set.
That's so smart. I've not heard anybody talk about having a duplicate listing, but it makes sense because, like, for mine, my October got wiped out except for these guys that are going to come, from like the 18th to like the 22nd. And
Right.
it's a good booking, but I could also have the whole 30 days booked. And I don't know if I'm losing those leads as we speak right now. So if I create a duplicate listing, I'm assuming what I would do then is just have that listing set at a minimum of 30 days, right?
Yeah. 100%. Have it set at 30 days and radically change the photos, switch it up, change the actual title, the descriptions to convey, hey, we're here to support families who are displaced. This listing, this property setup is for those who are coming to the area to work. This is for disaster. And so once you switch it up a little bit, in my conscience, I could sleep at night and say, yeah, I have a whole different property, a whole different setup, but I'm gonna get pushback. Don't come for me, guys. Don't even message me. Everybody says this and that or the other, but you own your business. And I just want to make sure that you have the tools. I'm telling you what I do. It's not for everyone, but that is how we continue to get those leads. And then we can position ourselves from there, whether we partner with someone, whether we invest in another property, or we even, negotiate some type of strategy to implement a property through a rent for rent model. But you always want to make sure you're open for business for this particular avatar. And that's how we've been pretty successful with the midterm rentals in our markets.
That's so smart. That's incredibly. I think everybody listening and everybody that watches this later should go do this. And you could even you can shut this thing. You can shut down that duplicate
Yeah.
listing and potentially open it up when you need to.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
I imagine this works really well for beach markets, for instance, that transition to month-long stays for
Yeah.
certain parts of the year, and maybe they do have a 1-2 day booking that now anybody looking for 6 months, they will never ever see your property if that's
Yeah.
what they're searching for. It's really, really smart. I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
then you could open your calendar, say your snowbirds or the climate migrants are looking to book the property starting in March, for instance, or January, for instance. So open the calendar up during that period of time, right? We're in October. Have that in the beach market open up starting January so that they're seeing it and you're able to market to them.
Yeah. We've got a question from Eric Whiteman here, who's a client of mine, and he
Yeah.
bought one in Fletcher. He said, as a duplicate listing against the rules, you can get kicked off for it.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was talking about a little bit, Eric. So I call it your viewing pleasure. Take what you can from this conversation and do what you feel is in alignment with you and your business model. But with my duplicate listing, I believe if you have two listings that are exactly the same, yeah, you're going to have some red flags. But if the second listing is speaking directly to disaster displays, construction crews that are coming into to work on the infrastructure in that particular market. We've been doing it since 2018 and we haven't been kicked off, but it doesn't mean as soon as Eric does it, it's like, Rachel, you lied to me. So take what you will from it. It's not for everyone, but yes, we have one that's just there. It's like a flagship listing to just attract the leads. We don't necessarily duplicate all of our listings, but just one per market to have that, hey, we're open for business. And then we can transition from there and provide them the actual link if we so choose.
That makes sense. Sandy is saying, is there a way to get the reviews from the STR listing into the monthly listing? And I think the easiest way to probably do this is to copy and paste and add them to the photos of the new listing. 1 or 2 5-star reviews, and maybe ones that specifically point to information that you really want disaster crews, law enforcement, displaced families, insurance companies to see, which might talk about, for instance, in my listing, might talk about all the different areas for families, or maybe the fenced in yard, or the fact that there's 5 bathrooms might be interesting. You don't want to talk about like, oh, the game room was the best game room we've ever seen, right? Because none of those people care about that. Could be like the beds were the most comfortable thing we ever slept on, or it was so private and quiet. That might be really good for law enforcement, for instance. So that's a good way to get that information over, I think.
100%. And I will piggyback. I will say that our construction crews, since many of you in those markets may be hosting them, they're a little bit rougher around the edges with the property. So if you have any precious, glassware that they're heirlooms and have sentimental value, put it away. I will say there's always a few things that need to be tightened up once they're done, but overall, they've been amazing guests to serve as well. They love to have a good little outdoor space. So if your outdoor space, doesn't have any seating, put a few chairs outside. If you can throw even a little barbecue grill, it doesn't have to be too crazy. They do enjoy just sitting outside and barbecuing. It doesn't have to be putt putt, a pool, or a hot tub or anything too fancy. I know many of you have those types of properties, but they're simpler type of avatar in terms of just coming there to work. But that's one of the little luxuries for the construction crew avatar. As far as the family oriented avatar, one of the biggest amenities, and I may get dinged for this as well, one of the biggest amenities that doesn't break the bank and that will put you on the map. We just got someone who closed on an $18,000 for 30-day stay in one of these markets. It was for a family that was traveling, that their home is being repaired, but my client, it's the only property that was pet friendly. And so
Mhm.
I require this. I tell my people, you have to be pet friendly. And you can't turn it on overnight. You need to make sure you have the right team, the buy-in for it, because that pet clean is different. But that's who we're serving. We're serving, good old fashioned Americans, right? I have two pets in my house, so I'm not going to board them up for 30 days while we're going through construction. So you got to start thinking like a family who's displaced. This is not a want per se. Your property may be as cute as a button, but it's no longer a want, but it's a need. It's a necessity now. So that necessity move requires a whole different mindset. And that's what I really want to impart upon the audience today.
So Deborah has a really good question, and this is kind of getting to the crux of the thing because October, I mean, this is terrible for North Carolina hosts to
Yeah.
lose in October. And I want to preface that with saying, like, I know there are so many worse situations out there, and there are so many people out there that would say things like, why is this what you're worrying about? Blah, blah, blah. But that's because they think that as investors that y'all are BlackRock, or that because you have one second home that's a short-term rental, that you are like some multi-billionaire, and they don't understand, like we do, that you're just like us. And practically, I mean, like, this is a situation where you could lose your livelihood, where this is a part of your livelihood. I know
Yeah.
some of my clients are nurses that work 80 hours a week to provide for their families, and this was their step up to some sort of a path to wealth. And so I don't think that we should feel bad for having this conversation. With that being said, we know that there's other worse things out there going on. We're just doing what we can, sharing our expertise. I can't share any expertise with somebody whose their house has been, like,
Yeah.
stripped away by the river. I don't have those skills. Those are not my talents.
Yeah.
My talents I can share with you guys, and these are my talents. So we don't want to, try to shine a huge spotlight on this, but us in our little corner of the world, that's what we're focusing on as our clients and investors. So anyways, we'll move on from that. Where do people find these insurance stays? Where do they need to get in front of right now, and do they pay well?
Okay, so those are great questions, and thank you for asking. But I did want to highlight and piggyback off of what you said a little bit earlier, Tyler. Yes, a lot of our members inside of the community, they are highly leveraged. I don't meet a lot of members who are buying these properties cash, so they're risking it all. They're putting, a lot of their life savings into getting into these properties. And what I love about this midterm rental insurance strategy, we're actually serving with the heart in mind. So not only are we sharing with our fellow short-term rental hosts how to reposition their property so that they could continue to receive some type of revenue during this difficult time, but we're sharing with them the tools, the steps, so that we can serve a community that is in need right now. They're in dire need. So you and I, we may not be able to pick up a hammer and build a house, but we can house someone while the professionals are getting their house taken care of, and we can advocate on their behalf too. And so the way we advocate on their behalf is by getting this information, by getting educated and letting them know, hey, you do have a protection inside of your insurance policy that can allow for you to stay in our property, for the next 3, 6, 18, 24 months. We got a 24-month booking. You know what I mean? So you do have that protection. You don't have to stay in a hotel for 2 years, right? You can actually stay in a home away from home that feels like home, that is right near where your home is.
Yeah.
So this is a full circle. I've always felt really good about having this conversation, because where else do you get to create a revenue stream on the side while helping someone who's going through one of the most trying times of their lives? So I am here for it. And I totally forgot the question. So let me get off of my soapbox and tell me the question again.
So where can people get in front of the
Okay.
insurance companies, and how much, what do they pay?
Where and how much? Phenomenal. Okay. So one thing we talked about a little bit earlier, Tyler, and I hope it doesn't escape you. I'm going to say it one more time. So if you're multitasking, come back to me. Do not let this escape you. Like it or not, Airbnb has done such a phenomenal job with their marketing that they are the number one platform for finding furnished housing. The insurance companies are actually looking on platforms like Airbnb. But my question to you again is, will they find your property? Do you have 2-night bookings peppered all over through it, so that when they go and search for a 30-day stay, go in your market and search for a 30-day stay with your property size and some of the features? Does your property show up? If it's not showing up for you, my friend, it's most likely not showing up for them as well. So optimizing that listing, or creating a listing that is optimized for those 30-day stays, is going to be ideal. Low hanging fruit, you can do that today. Now, there are some other places that they're looking as well. They look on platforms like Furnish Finder, which is not one that I use prolifically, because our properties are a little bit larger, and Furnish Finder caters to like 1 and 2 bedrooms. They're trying to get better with the larger properties, but that is a paid platform. So you really want to think about that particular platform to see if it's a good fit for you, to see if you think you can attract the right avatar with that platform. They're looking on other platforms like Corporate Housing by Owner. Now, Corporate Housing by Owner, to me, it's a competitor to Furnish Finder. However, it tends to lean to the larger properties. So 3+ bedrooms, that's where most of our properties are listed on Corporate Housing by Owner. So that's yet again another paid platform. Now, let me give you some free places where you can list your property. You can list it directly with the insurance portal. Okay, let me say that again. For those in the back, you can list it directly with the insurance portal. And the way you do that is by listing on their third-party booking sites. One of the number one temporary housing agencies in North America is called ALE Solutions. All you would have to do is go to alesolutions.com. At the upper right-hand corner, it says register property. And then you'll see the drop down and go ahead and register your property. You can have it registered in the next 5 minutes. No photos are required. It's like you're filling a jot form out, and bada bing, you're done. You're not going to get the warm and fuzzy feeling of, oh, I can see my listing, I have reviews, none of that. It disappears into the ether. It doesn't even feel like warm and fuzzy, but it's there. Okay. And I recommend that you don't do this just today. Do this every Monday. Okay, so that it gets activated until you get that booking, then you stop doing it unless you have multiple properties you're looking to list. That's number one. Number two, list on a platform called MyKey. As a matter of fact, they're one of the top temporary housing agencies in North America as well. I think they hold the contract for State Farm, so they're big. And I will send you the link. Okay, it's MyKey, MYKEY. They're actually Canadian based. MYKEY.com/suppliers/sign up. So I will text that to you in our Facebook chat if you want to drop that for everyone. Again, not warm and fuzzy. It's probably a 2-pager of a form. Fill that out, put it out there. Okay. Now, you're going to come back and you're going to say, well, they're asking about pricing. How much should I price? Okay, so that's a really, really good question. So, how much should you price depends on your property's rebuild value, the structure's rebuild value. So, I want to dive a little bit deep within that part of the conversation. Tyler, you give me permission. Do you want to pause? Do you have any questions about those few places to list before I dive into pricing?
I think the main thing I'm just going to point out, guys, don't worry about doing all the Googling now. Continue watching the video. I'm going to send out an email at the end of the day with all the resources that we've put together. If I have to rewatch the video, whatever it is, this is going to go out to everyone. If you're not on mine or Rachel's email list, let us know and put your email in the comments.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So the way that I tend to price our properties, it depends on the cost of living. Let's just say North Carolina, it's like a low to mid cost of living market overall, right? Of course, there are some higher, similar to Georgia, right? We have Buckhead, but we have some of the rural areas. So it's not like Manhattan or LA or anything like that, or San Francisco. Those areas, the cost of living is around $1,000 per square foot. So I take my square footage of my property. So say it's 1,000 square feet, just for round numbers. I multiply it by a multiplier, 150. Okay. And that is the amount that I should expect per year per claim. Okay. So for example, 150 times 1,000 is $150,000. Right? That is the rebuild value. That's the rebuild value for the property. That's how much it would cost to rebuild the property. Okay. I think I got a little bit excited. There's one more step. 25% of that is what I should expect per year per claim. So if I were to take my calculator and I would go 150,000 times 0.25, that's 37,000 per year per claim. So we're going to divide that by 12. That's about $3,100 per month. $3,100 per month. Okay. So typically the properties that we're dealing with are a bit larger. And so, for instance, if we've determined the rebuild value to be $400,000, that's about $8,300 per month.
Got it.
And that's the ceiling of what we're typically quoting. We take a few more steps inside of our community. We read the room. We want to see, well, what are our competitors charging as well? And we'll take that into consideration and average it out, because we don't want to price ourselves out of the conversation. So say you're expecting 8,300, but if you had offered 7,900, you would have gotten the deal for 12 months. Hey, that's not bad, right? That's a win-win. So price it, you know what your ceiling is, right? And then read the room and see what else is involved in terms of what's available in the market to make sure that you're not, completely out of line. And then they love bundle pricing. So if you can manage bundle pricing, that's going to be awesome. So add an extra $400 or $500 or even $1,000 for all of the extras. I'm talking about lawn care, snow removal, utilities, electricity, water, sewer, lights, gas, Wi-Fi. Let them know everything's included. If you want to, just give us the $8,500 a month, everything's included, unlimited extensions. That's the conversation that they like to have. They don't like to be nickel and dime with a whole bunch of small invoices. They don't like the idea of, hey, the family can stay with me for 2 months, but they're going to have to leave and, leave for 2 days so I can host another client for 2 days and then they can come back. That's going to be a non-starter. Okay. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Be prepared. Even if they are asking you for 1 month, be prepared. If it's water damage related, that's usually 6 months. And if it's fire damage, it's usually 9 to 13 months or so, but it really depends. I know some families have sustained massive amount of loss and some not so much. So unlimited extensions is a part of the conversations that we have and how we win our contracts. We say it's unlimited extensions. You're going to lock in this rate. As a matter of fact, you're crossing into my peak season, but we're going to give you something reasonable for the next, 12 months. You can book for just one, but it's unlimited extensions. We got you covered. So that's your leverage point. Okay.
Amazing. Okay, so let me just go over the math again because I want to make sure we have this right. And everybody, don't worry, this is going to go in the email, so I have this written down. So it's $150 a square foot multiplied by the square footage of the house. Then you take 25% of that number. That's your kind of yearly rental number. And then if you want to get to a monthly rental number, you divide that by 12.
100%. You got it.
Cool. Okay. Got it. I did do it a couple times here in my notes, but we've got that for you guys. That's going to go out in the email as well as those other portals too. Okay. So much information. Oh my goodness. And so many good questions, y'all. Thank you so much. And please tag somebody else in the comments if they need to see this as well. Rachel, what else do everybody need to know?
What else? Well, again, for those who are just jumping on, they're not acquainted with the strategy at all. Let me just give you a high level 3-step process of the strategy. Okay. Sadly, disaster strikes, and this could happen in a North Carolina, non-Florida. Actually, I had a client in Indiana whose neighbor disaster, they had a disaster, a water pipe that burst, right? Nothing is drastic. Right. However, when disaster strikes, it gets to the extent where the property is deemed unlivable. It's uninhabitable. Okay. There is a protection inside of your homeowner's insurance called loss of use. And loss of use, I call it my rule of 25, which is the math we just did. Rule of 25, it's about 25% of the structure's rebuild value. Okay, so that family moves out of their home and they have to move into a separate place to stay. And they've selected your home because your calendar was widely available. They found you, you were found. And every single month you're paid by the temporary housing agent, which is the intermediary between the insurance and the insured. Okay. So you're paid every month. They cut a check for you every single month. And it's just been phenomenal. They pay on time. It's pretty nice payments, right? The homeowners insurance industry, they saw a massive surplus of over $1 trillion at the end of the year. That means when all of their bills were paid, they had over $1 trillion left. Well, this year is probably going to be different because I saw we had nearly $29 billion in damage in just Hurricane Helene. But their pockets are full. Their pockets are really, really deep. And so they do have the ability. You're working with a corporation. You would not and should not really expect the family to be paying this out. So become an advocate for them. Let them know, hey, you're happy to speak with the temporary housing agent. Don't dish out all of the details of how we calculated the number. Just tell them this is the fair rental value. Hey, the fair rental value for my property. They understand that language. FRV, fair rental value for my property is this, and let it sit there. Let them know it's bundle pricing. Let them know, hey, let's get this family in right away, and just position yourself as someone who is confident, who knows exactly what you're doing. If you've done a little bit of short-term rentals, trust me, this is 10 times easier because they're there for a need, not for one. They're not inspecting to see, oh, was there one little hair and I'm going to report. It's not that kind of conversation. So they're there because they need to be there. They just want to be nearby their property, checking on it while it's getting repaired, but keeping their kids in the same area that they're used to. They want a home away from home while they're checking in on the project that's at hand. So hopefully that provides a little bit more insight on like the attitude and the mindset of this avatar.
Got it. So do they need to sign a lease?
Yes, they do need to sign a lease, and I typically leverage the state-specific lease. However, I add a couple of caveats, one of which is the individual that is staying in the property is not the individual that's paying. So the temporary housing agency is responsible for all payments. And additionally, the temporary housing agency is responsible and is able to ask for extensions and provide the notice to vacate as well. So when it comes to pay, extensions, vacate, I have one red, like in bold red. That's what I've added to my state-specific lease, the ones that you would probably use as a real estate agent, Tyler.
Good. Okay. And we are, guys, we're happy to provide that for you for North Carolina as well. So I will attach a copy of that to the email that we send out. So y'all will have that. A lot of people asking, what happens if they already have a booking? Guys, that's going to be up to you at the end of the day, right? For me, what I would probably do is open up, like, I have this big property that sleeps 20 people. I'd probably open it to start for October. My November bookings have stayed around. My December bookings have stayed around. So I'd probably try and open it for a 30-day booking, see what happens. Maybe this is something I want to pivot to. Who knows what that ends up like after that. I wouldn't likely recommend opening up 30 days if you have 30 days full of STR bookings, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need a different property for that. And at the end of the day, if you're full of STR bookings, then you're good to go. And so Deborah's asking, how do they determine when to go MTR, LTR? I think right now is a perfect example when October's bookings have all canceled. At the end of the day, now you have the opportunity to host some displaced families or law enforcement or construction crews or things like that.
Yeah.
Deborah's also asking, do they need a security deposit?
Ooh, thank you for asking that, Deborah. You are not leaving any stone unturned. Yes, absolutely. So this is Tyler's community only. This is a big secret. So I collect two deposits. I collect a non-refundable deposit as well as a refundable deposit. Now, the refundable deposit is a heftier deposit. It's going to be either the whole month's rent or 50% of that. If it's one of those, $28,000 per month property, well, I'll go halfway, or even 15,000. I'll go halfway. I'll do 6,000 or 7,000. That's refundable, and that is my good behavior deposit. Make sure that you didn't completely trash the place. However, my non-refundable deposit, when you are hosting these guests, guys, put away the Brooklyn and sheets, right? We're not going to go top tier, ultra luxury with our linens or anything like that, because those linens are shot, it's over. And so I will collect anywhere from $500 to $1,500, depending on the property size, as my non-refundable deposit that covers me for dings on the walls. There's going to be dings, there's going to be scuffs, there's going to be the maintenance guy's going to have to come in, repaint, because again, and I'm glad you said that MTR, LTR, it turns out being more of a long-term rental type of guest. And I'll give you one more little risk mitigation technique is we have our cleaners clean the property once a month at minimum. I prefer twice a month. Even if they're there for 13 months, my cleaners are my eyes, they're my ears, they're my everything. And they're just making sure that once we turn over towards the end, it's not going to be an extra long period, before we can turn over to the new guest. So having that monthly clean is a great way to mitigate risk as well. So we do add that on in our monthly fee. We let them know cleanings are included. And I add that, but then if it becomes a thing where the insurance goes in, no, we don't want to, I say, okay, I'll remove $200 a month. And then you want to always sound like you're going to work with them, because the way this business works is you want that repeat business, right? So, okay, we'll take off the cleaning. Well, now you've got something where you can push and pull. And so, yeah, and I'll eat the cleaning fee if I have to, but it's worth it for that type of contract for sure.
Got it. And how long are the bookings on? I mean, I have to imagine that it's, Rain here says a week. I mean, it's from a week, and you mentioned a 24-month booking, which I'm assuming, because you mentioned it, you've had that happen.
Yeah.
So it can be anything, right?
Yeah, and I would say they're very shy about booking for a long time. So never assume if they're only booking for 2 weeks. Yesterday we just got an inquiry. They wanted 2 weeks for 9,800, right? And then I was like, well, ask them for a month. They said, okay, we'll book for the month, right? But then they're going to extend. I had a skylight in my own personal home. I know the top contractors in my market. It took him 3 months to fix my skylight. How long is it going to take to actually fix things that are really damage to a property, right? Contractors are taking forever to repair. So that's the reality of it. So typically in a non, category 5 situation, we're seeing 6 months is the average for water damage. 9 months is the average for fire damage, but 13 months, 24 months, it's possible. If the home is absolutely decimated it has to be built from the ground up, right? So that makes sense. That is the
Wow.
timeline, my friends.
Goodness, there's so many different things to think about in this. Okay, so we've got a couple different portals for everybody. That's going to go out via email. You've got information on pricing, leases, deposits, cleaning. Y'all, please, if you have any other questions for Dr. Rachel here, please ask in the comments before we finish up here. Rachel, what's something we haven't asked?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think you've pretty much covered it. Yeah, I think you've pretty much covered it.
Is what we've done.
Yeah. It's a quick masterclass. No, you've pretty much covered it. Again, I can't emphasize how great it is to serve, this type of clientele. I serve both short and midterm rentals, and I got to tell you, my insurance midterm rentals are absolute favorite. They hold a near and dear place in my heart, although I love my short-term rental guests as well. I just think it's important that whether or not it's a good fit for you right now, just keep this in the back of your mind as a strategy. It's another tool in your tool chest. So absolutely love this strategy. Oh, here's what you haven't asked, and I think it's also very important. So you remember how we talked about, say they're wanting 2 weeks stay, right? Go ahead and accept that on the Airbnb platform, for instance. But all road leads to getting them off of platform for the subsequent bookings. Okay. So that's a whole other masterclass, but you want to get them off of platform. They get to save a few dollars and you get to make more money because you're not worried about the Airbnb fees. So you want to do that strategically, get them off of platform. The insurance company love that. They say, hey, let's save you, $500, right? You paid $7,500 last month, but however, with Airbnb, your payout may be $5,000, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So tell them, hey, next month, why don't we'll save you a few bucks, just pay $7,000, pay it to me directly. And now you just gave yourself a raise. So don't be afraid to maybe accept even a little bit less than you would hope for the first month, with the hopes of getting them off of platform and letting them know, hey, we're now in peak season. It's actually higher, but let's lock you in at this amount, and the insurance, they're more than happy to come off of the Airbnb platform.
Got it. Jazz, I think your question on STR insurance, you've got to call your short-term rental broker. Ask them, what happens to my policy if I rent for more than 30 days? What happens if it's more than 6 months? What happens if it's more than 12 months? If you're with a broker like Steadily, they can swap you over to LTR insurance, for instance. So that might be a good place to check if you're with somebody like Proper, and if they don't want to allow, or if they say you wouldn't be covered, for instance, if you did an MTR and LTR. So check with them. We're not going to have great advice for every insurance company out there. I have a really good question from Deborah. Should they allow early cancellations? Listen, if you have your guests reaching out to you right now about like, oh, well, no, October, we're not sure if we're going to come, blah, blah, blah. Open your calendar now, because at law enforcement agencies, disaster relief, construction crews, those are all getting filled as we speak. I'm still getting right now, literally while we were on this, I got a message. Does your property have power and water? I'm able to reserve as soon as you confirm. 30-day booking. Actually, I got 2 messages from 2 different people saying the same thing. Does your property have power and water? So one thing I mentioned yesterday on our Zoom, or the day before that, was make sure to put in all your titles, power and water available. People are sending out this question mass right now because there's so many places without it. So put that in all your titles. And then if your guests are starting to buck and they're saying, oh, we might cancel, or we want to wait it out. For me, I wanted my calendar cleared. If I could get it cleared, then great. I'll get it cleared. I'll be done with it, and I can move on to getting it booked for a month. So I would say that would be my advice. If they're already talking about canceling, the Airbnb is going to let them cancel the day that they're supposed to check in for the next 2 months, guys. That's the reality of it, is Airbnb does not have our back here. And they've extended this all the way out to the end of November. So like even my November guests are all pretty good to go. I did have one November guest cancel and they actually rebooked for April, but overall, the majority of my people are staying on for November, which is great. But Airbnb is allowing them free cancellations until then. There's a reason that those cancellation policies exist. It's because here's what happens. They like go on Airbnb on a Sunday at home while they're doing nothing. This is why all of our bookings happen on Sunday, because people are bored and at home and they see your property and they're like, oh, that looks amazing. And they spend $5,000. And typically what happens is like before the vacation, people get into regret, but they know that there's a cancellation policy. They go, when they know there's not a cancellation policy at all and they can cancel the day that they come, they're going to do that. They're going to do that 50% of the time or more. So I would just rather get those bookings off my books and convince them to cancel so that you could move on to this strategy and get somebody in there for a whole month and not worry about losing a whole month of bookings. So really, really important to do that.
Love that. Love that. And the fact that you're getting these inquiries in real time, right? So if that doesn't inspire our audience listeners to maybe, create a scenario where you have a listing out there that is, you're getting those questions and getting the buzz around it, then I don't know. I don't know what else to say, Tyler.
Yeah, exactly. I think Allison has two really good questions here. When you create a second listing, you're turning off instant book, right?
Yes, absolutely. Good question. Thank you. So to get a little bit granular, I'm turning off Instant Book. I'm listing it at a pretty nice high price, and I'm slapping on a 40% off discount to just, and then do also what Tyler just says, water and power available. So anything to just get it out there and say, we're open for business, whatever you can do, to let them know you're open, you're open and you're available, and they're seeing this massive discount. It really helps push the algorithm, right? A 30% discount, but you had, increased the price anyway to begin with. So that's how we're able to quickly, get some conversations going for that particular listing.
Got it. And then her second question is, how do they take them off platform if it's just a lead gen listing? They're booking on that lead gen listing. I mean, You're negotiating with them, they're booking, because you don't want to, if you get on a phone call with them or something and take them off platform on a duplicate listing, I think that's probably okay. And also just be really careful, because Airbnb is real serious about that. So maybe what you do is say something like, we can extend. Why don't we just book the first 30 days on Airbnb?
Exactly.
Book this, and I'll offer you unlimited extensions, I think was what you were saying, Rachel.
Yeah.
Then you've got their contact info. If they want to book 6 months after that, then you call them or email them directly, take them off the platform.
Yeah, so Airbnb gets that first booking. I get it. They marketed and brought them in, but I get my subsequent bookings. I will take them off platform for the subsequent ones. So you're spot on, Tyler. I allow them to book through Airbnb. Sometimes they will book on that lead gen link, and sometimes I'll send them my other listing link to book on there. Just, I sachet my business the way that I need to make sure that, especially if I have multiple properties in the market, that one lead gen is kind of bringing them in, and I can place them accordingly. But yes, they can book on the lead gen as well. But once they ask to extend, you're mine, because, and they're asking to extend because of the work that you put into your listing, the work you put into the hospitality. So I feel like you deserve, all that comes with that subsequent booking. So for sure.
Veronica, I think to answer your question, you have minimal damage, but no power, and you're afraid to cancel these bookings. Nobody's coming in October. If they've started thinking about it, and not to say nobody, I had my whole calendar. I was full 30 days, the highest rates. I'm going to lose like $20,000 or $30,000 this month on this property. This has been booked out for like 9 months. So really, really unfortunate. These folks are likely going to cancel. October is going to suck this year for Western North Carolina, where normally it's our best month. It just is going to be the truth. The Blue Ridge Parkway is not open yet. Even though the Biltmore's opening on October 3rd, people are they're even scared to say they want to come to town. They're scared to come to town and get dirty looks from locals, because they're in these local Facebook groups where locals are saying, do not come here. We do not want you to come here. Yeah. I think that sentiment is really going to change in November. right? But it's really raw. This wound that happened, this tragedy that's just happened in Western North Carolina is really raw right now. And there's seeing the media is exacerbating all of this devastation. There's good stories out there too, not to diminish the bad ones, but like any disaster, there's good and bad. But at the end of the day, I do think that tourists are likely for the most part not going to come. So if they're still on there, all they're doing is eating up your potential to get these midterm rental bookings right now. So I would be more proactive. Here's what you could do is after this live video, go and call every one of your guests that you've got booked for October and just feel them out. Hey, I'm your Airbnb host. I wanted to tell you about the area. I wanted to check in with you guys. If they start being real wishy-washy and saying things like, well, we're just going to wait, we're not sure, we've canceled flights, just get them out of your calendar now. Convince them to cancel. They'll get a full refund. Talk to them about that. Talk to them about you'll love to have them at another time so that you could go get a big fat LTR, MTR booking. At the end of the day, those are going to run out. So us in our community, we want to capture as much of those as possible. Not to be greedy. I mean, right, this is what you're all watching. You're all investing your time. You're investing your properties and your money. We're likely paying more for repairs to get them done faster. I just got a quote for $10,000 for trees around my house. There's not even a tree in my roof. And I'm like, oh my God, but if I want to get it done this week, that's what I'm going to have to pay, because otherwise they'll just go to my neighbor who will pay $10,000. So y'all are investing your time, your money into this. Make sure that you go and capture the most you can on the back end. And it's also a way to help the community as well. A lot of these homeowners, their insurance companies are going to cover this. Eric has a great question, Rachel, and I think this is a good lead in for how do people contact you? What do you do? What do you offer? Eric's asking Dr. Rachel, do you help owners navigating this as a service?
Yes, actually we do, Eric. If you want, feel free to email me, concierge@shorttermgems.com, concierge@shorttermgems.com. We'll see what your situation is. I rely on Tyler a whole lot because he's local to the area, but if there's any way that I can help at all, I'm happy to do so. Just send us an email and I'm happy to help.
Cool. Amazing. All right, guys, there are a lot more questions in the comments. Dr. Rachel and I are going to go through and answer some of those via text. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with us today. Please reach out to Dr. Rachel. Look her up on Facebook, her community, Short-Term Gems, and everything that she's done for so long. She has constantly poured out all of her talents on all of these subjects for years now. Rachel and I have known each other for so many years now, and she has constantly poured into our community. So please go give her a follow, give her a like, look her up on Facebook, join her Facebook group, join her email list, because she is constantly giving and pouring into this community. And Rachel, thank you so much for coming and pouring into us again today, as always.
It's my pleasure, Tyler, and I so appreciate you putting this out there. I think we just really need to get the word out. I know a lot of people have invested so much into launching that first or second short-term rental, and I think that everyone can win still, even in the face of these challenges. And the way we win is by solving other people's problems. So thank you for putting this together, Tyler. I so appreciate being here with you, my friend.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. And we've got